Welcome to another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I am the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And you can learn more about that at teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Today, my guest is Dianna Deeney, and she is an engineer, product development coach, and founder of Deeney Enterprises. With over 25 years in manufacturing, she's worked her way up from the plant floor to leading product design and quality engineering teams. She's also the author of the book Pierce the Design Fog, showing how leaders can bridge the communication gap with engineers. So I'm really curious to learn more about her founding of Deeney Enterprises, her motivation to start her or to write her book, and the ways in which becoming an effective communicator has benefited her. So welcome to Teach the Geek interviews, Dianna.
Thank you. Thanks for inviting me onto your show.
You're very welcome. So, from the bit of research I did on you, I saw that you studied mechanical engineering. So, what was the motivation to do that?
Oh, I come from a family of engineers. So there was a lot of influence going on there. And my family was also a mega DIY family. Anything we could do ourselves, we did, from building houses, plumbing, electric, all that stuff. So that the idea of engineering, especially mechanical engineering, wasn't foreign. And also, it was one of the broadest engineering fields. So I felt like it would give me the most opportunity to try different things and be into different industries.
Nice. Your reasoning is very different from mine. I did not come from an engineering background. No one in my family that I knew of. I think I had an uncle who was an engineer. I'm not too sure, but no one in my immediate family. I became an engineer because my father thought I should do it, even though he didn't do it himself.
Well, and did you find inspiration when you were at the school and doing engineering things? I mean, you must have.
Well, I kept doing it, so I guess I guess it worked out okay.
Well,
But
that's the good old engineering spirit. You just keep at it and keep working at it, and it works out. Yes.
yeah, yeah, for sure. Okay, so so you get a degree in mechanical engineering, and I think you're right too. It is probably one of the more versatile engineering degrees. What kind of work did you do when you started working?
Well, I've worked in plastic injection molding, mold and tool design. I also worked in some glass, the polar core fiberglass industry. But I spent the most time in the medical device industry. And I was working on disposable medical devices and had an opportunity to work on a high-tech implantable heart pump. And that's where I really fell into quality and reliability engineering. I found some really great mentors there, and I never looked back. And quality and reliability engineering is one of those things where you happen upon it in your work, in my opinion, if you're lucky. And if it speaks to you, then there's a lot of avenues that you can pursue for that. So that's what I've been studying ever since.
Okay, well, we have that in common. When I worked as an engineer, I also worked in medical devices.
Yeah?
Yeah, yeah, in spinal implants. It was a good time.
Yeah, the rigor with being in a regulated industry kind of helps set you up for certain systems and processes and thought processes. So it does influence how you learn and how you look at how products are developed and made. And it's not necessarily a bad thing.
Yeah. And kudos to people like you who want to do quality. I know I was one of them people. Yeah, I was in product development the entire time, but yeah, we definitely need those quality people to tell us, and you quality and regulatory affairs, tell you what can and can't be done for sure.
Yeah, and I also often found myself bridging the silos of the company. So from marketing to the clinicians and the technicians, the field technicians, the complaint management, and the product design engineers. So as my role as a quality engineer spanned all those different silos, so I got to interact and see a lot of how things are done in the different companies, depending on what your focus is as for your cross-functional team. I don't know, it was a rewarding experience.
How did you make the choices as to what roles you took on within your engineering career?
How did I make those choices?
Yeah.
It was what interested me. I've always tried new things, and if it worked, I would try to better understand why it worked. And if it didn't work, I try to understand how I could do it differently the next time. So I think just being curious throughout my career has led to different opportunities and choices that I could make about what I wanted to do and what I wanted to focus on.
Did you ever manage other people?
I led cross-functional teams, but no, I was not a manager in the respect of I had people reporting to me and I had to do like the yearly performance reviews and things like that. But I was more of the person that would lead the cross-functional team in either activities to solve this particular problem or to get them to collaborate and communicate better toward a common goal.
Okay. Was managing people just something you weren't necessarily interested in, or did the opportunity just not come up?
You know what? It's not something that I really pursued. Um, I was satisfied working with my teammates, with my team, and so management wasn't a career path that I really pursued heavily. I think maybe if I had stayed in strict product development engineering or process development engineering, that would have been a natural career path. But my shift into quality and reliability kind of scratched that itch, so to say. Um, it just wasn't part of the career ladder for where I was heading.
Got it. I don't blame you. I never wanted to be a manager of people either. People have problems, and you got to deal with their problems. I got enough problems of my own.
No, were you a manager at one point?
No, never. As you, it never came up, and it wasn't something I pursued because I did not want that responsibility of
Mm.
having to be, responsible for other people's output. But then, as I said, as a manager, I get the sense that year over year we expect more of people who manage people because people come with their issues and they expect their organizations to help them manage those issues. And yet you have these people in these roles, these manager roles who aren't equipped. I mean, they're not therapists, but yet here you are with these people that have problems and it hurts the team overall, the organization overall. So you know that something needs to be done about this, but perhaps you don't know how to approach that situation if you're the manager of people, but yet it's still on your plate to deal with. And I didn't want that responsibility.
Yeah, what is that called? Is that the Peter principle? When you're always given promotions up to your incapabilities. So if you do a job really well, they want to promote you to manager of that job. And then some people do have a hard time disconnecting or shifting from the doer to the manager and being a coach. And then I think today, with just the fast moving pace of innovation and everything else, the managers have some unique challenges than maybe they did 10, 20 years ago. So it is an important role and I respect it. It's just not something that I was interested in.
Yep, same here. Okay, so then you started Deeney Enterprises. I'm curious to learn the motivation to do that.
Well, it was a matter of I was doing consulting and I thought more and more about what else could I do besides consulting. I could do coaching, I could do courses, I could eventually write a book. So it was just a natural progression to me to start a company and then sort of keep my business life separate from my personal life. And it also serves as a way to develop these products and services so that I can help more people.
Okay, so when you decided to form Deeney Enterprises, was the goal always to make a break from the corporate life and form this Deeney Enterprises to be a full-time thing, or was it to do alongside having a W-2 job?
It was a full-time thing. Yeah, I guess I had the entrepreneurial spirit, and you know, it's one of those things too. I said I came from an engineering family, and my parents were business owners. My dad was a journeyman tool and die maker, and they had a plastic injection molding shop. So being an entrepreneur, handling my own business, my uncle was also an engineer with the business. I guess it didn't seem that big of a jump to me to be able to do that.
Okay. So for the people who are listening or watching our conversation and perhaps they're thinking about making that jump too, what do you think they need to have in place before leaving a full-time job to start your own business?
Well, I know the term thought leader gets thrown around a lot, and it makes some people cringe to hear that. But you really do need to think about your own network and your thought leadership in the sense of what is it that you stand for? How are you different from other people that are talking about the same kind of things? And then start talking about it and being public about it. Doing podcasts, being on LinkedIn is probably the hottest place for engineers, or maybe Reddit. But really putting yourself out there and being confident enough to be able to do that, to start to develop your ideas. And that will help you when you're ready to launch with any consulting career.
All right. Uh, well, probably should have asked this already, but I suppose I can ask it now. With Deeney Enterprises, what type of work do you do with clients?
I do consulting work. I help with the energy industries, communication industry, medical devices still. Sometimes it's risk management. Some companies are trying to institute FMEA. Other times it's about sampling. How do we sample and inspect this thing on a routine basis? And it's from a company that typically doesn't do things like medical device, like with quality engineering. It's sort of a new topic. And I also coach individuals who are working in quality reliability to help them with their job, their day-to-days, to bounce feedback or to help them grow in their careers. So that's a lot of what I do: quality management systems, all things quality and reliability, and also in product design with my book.
Oh, okay. Well, and now that's a great segue to ask about your book. When it comes to your book, what was the motivation to write it, and what do you hope people take away from it?
I started this project, Quality During Design, in 2021. And the goal was to help people with that fuzzy front end of concept development between we have an idea and we're starting to create design inputs for engineering inputs and technical inputs. And it's that middle area where communication doesn't happen well, or information gets lost, things don't get translated well. So I really wanted to push quality during the design process and that front end. And I would try to communicate that with people, and they would get lost. So, so through creating an online course for it, through presenting ideas at conferences and getting feedback, trying it on my own in my consulting business, and then just my years of experience being a quality and reliability engineer, I realized that what people really needed was a book, some sort of a playbook that they could use repeatably to just adopt one or two ideas or have a whole system that they could use. And that's what was really needed. So that's why I created Pierce the Design Fog as a playbook to help engineers with that early concept development in their product designs.
Oh, okay. Wonderful. So the book is geared towards engineers themselves. Is it possible for non-engineers to get anything from the book? And so what?
Yes, absolutely. It's for the cross-functional team, anybody involved in product design, if they want to communicate better with the engineers and the other people on the team, they can use the same methods. I did target engineers because I'm an engineer, and I'm also familiar with what engineers need to be able to design things, the kind of design inputs that they're looking for. So from that point of view, I created an adept team framework, which is a process for communicating with people. And the concept space model is what we can use to talk about to tease out the user experiences and the use process. So doing those two things together with the team, the cross-functional team, will help the engineers be able to develop design inputs.
Okay, wonderful. Diana, when I first started this podcast and YouTube channel, it all had to do with my own struggles giving presentations in front of management. And I worked on project teams, and my company didn't have project managers who would give presentations to management on project status updates. They relied on the engineers to do it for some reason. Looking back, I don't know why. As if we were the best speakers of all of us, and that definitely wasn't the case. Certainly wasn't the case for me. I had to give those presentations. It was rather horrendous. I got a lot better at it over time. But I'm curious when it comes to you and speaking in front of others. Is that something you've always been good at? And if not, what did you do to get better at it?
It's not a direct line of it's something where I used to perform in school, piano. I would play for people's weddings and I would play for company Christmas parties. So performing and being in front of people was not difficult. But the shift that I did have to make was being confident in what it was I was talking about, and realizing that the opinions and the information I had to share were worthwhile talking with, just to step up and say that. So I guess there's a difference between, like you said, your project is you need to give a status update on your project and you need to communicate with stakeholders. And then there's what I was talking about earlier with starting your own business and the thought leadership idea. They're similar, but a little different. And it's a matter of just being confident enough in what you're talking about to be able to just talk about it naturally and engage and look for that feedback. And sometimes preparing for the presentation, oftentimes, just preparing for the presentation will help you to work out your thoughts and ideas so that you're ready. You're ready to present. So those are some of the shifts that I've had to make is just knowing what to do when, always looking at who's in the audience, what is it that you're trying to communicate and give to them. And if you think about the audience first, then the rest of it kind of comes naturally, I think.
I think you're right about that too. And when I first started giving presentations, that definitely was not the case. I wasn't thinking about the audience at all. And I would get up there and read slides. And then I would have to answer questions afterwards. And I wouldn't be able to, well, I was answering questions I thought I'd answered during the presentation, but I recognized eventually that I wasn't putting things in a way that these people could understand. I was using a whole bunch of jargon that I knew that they didn't know. As I said, I wasn't putting things in a way that they could understand. And now, if I was sweating profusely before and during the presentation, it definitely was coming down afterwards. So I definitely learned my lesson.
Yeah. And in my quality and reliability work, having to span those silos, you had to be able to talk to people with different perceptions, different views of the same problem. So just practicing that in working with the teamwork would also help. But always thinking of the audience. And then, I used to think that I only had to say something once and then it would land. And then I think that kind of speaks to what you're talking about. Like you would present it and then you would get questions. You're like, I thought I already answered this. But being prepared and able to describe it in different ways or engage with the audience and the feedback that they're giving you is important and it's a good skill to develop. And you can
Yeah.
practice that in your work too. Yeah.
Yeah, I think another issue I think a lot of us technical people have is we just assume that people know what we know, but we didn't always know what we know. A lot of us, we went to school, we got these technical degrees, we take on these technical roles, and then we just assume that, well, I know it, so how do these people not know what I'm talking about? Well, they didn't get the technical degree, they didn't take on the technical role, so why would you assume that they would know what you know? And I think a lot of us just don't think about that at all. And then we're surprised when we get a whole bunch of questions afterwards that we thought we'd answered earlier.
Yeah. And then there's also the trap too that we don't want to dumb it down too much either. Because the people we work with are smart people. And another trap is that we can get into telling the process of how we got somewhere instead of just telling what the endpoint is, what's our recommendation, getting to the point, and then describing a little bit about how we got there. And then if there's questions about the process we took, we're prepared to answer them. But not leading, not, we don't need to take everybody else on the same journey that we took in order to get to our conclusion. We can just get to our conclusion right off the bat, and let feedback and discussions happen with our team.
100%. Do you ever get nervous during presentations? And if so, how do you manage your nerves?
Oh, sure, all the time. Um, I practice. If I'm giving a presentation at a conference, I make sure that I'm always audience centric. I'm always thinking of the audience first. I have a clear beginning and end, so I have a structured talk that actually takes somebody on a journey from beginning to end, and I know where I'm going with it. And then just practicing it, practice speaking it out loud and make sure that I'm within time limits. And just the fact of creating a presentation like that, it does take time. You can't just get from your technical report and then create a presentation from it. It's different styles of communication, and just recognizing that and keeping the audience in mind really helps with preparation.
Yeah. Kudos to you for taking timing into account. I'm a big fan of that as well. God knows how many presentations I've sat in on, especially at conferences. And you're looking at your watch thinking this person has 15 minutes. So why are they still talking after 17, 18, 19, something 20 minutes? They're still going.
Yeah, it's part of respect for your audience, right?
Mm,
It's respecting where they're coming from, and then it's also respectful of their time. And it's not that I was gonna say, it's not that you need to provide value all the time. You don't always need to be stating facts and proving things. You can also share a certain point of view and get people aligned on a different way of looking at something. And there could be growth that happens through that too. It's not just facts and knowledge. It could also be your own experiences and viewpoint. Because what you bring to the table from whatever you've been working on, it matters, and they want to hear from you about it.
yeah. And if you go over, that means lunch gets served later. And I ain't too happy about that when that happens. I'll tell you that. You know, when it comes to the people who are listening or watching our conversation, Diana, and they think that becoming a more effective communicator is something that they want to do, what would your number one tip be for them to start down that journey?
For engineers being a better communicator, I would suggest creating your technical reports like you normally do and providing them ahead of time. But then when you're developing your presentation, use the assertion evidence model. And this is something developed by my alma mater at Penn State. But you use a complete sentence at the top of the slide and then have a relevant graphic underneath. So you're asserting something, you're stating something about whatever you've been studying or what you're presenting on, and then you're providing the evidence, a visual evidence underneath, and you're talking to the rest of it. So you're not presenting your technical paper, you're presenting your assertion and you're providing the evidence for it. And people can read your technical report on their own, and they should. And you can recommend that they read it before you all get together. And that's going to promote better feedback loops, better discussions, and more of what you want when you're giving your technical presentations, which is that feedback and better decision making.
I like that framework because what it does, especially if you're speaking to non-technical people, it helps them focus on what they're supposed to be looking at when it comes to that visual. They don't have to think too hard about why that visual is there. Perhaps a technical person from your field, they know, but a non-technical person, chances are they don't. So if you just make it easier for them with that sentence that you said at the top, and for them to just know this is why that graphic is there for you to understand this sentence. I think they appreciate that. So I really like that framework.
Yeah, and it has a lot to do with our cognitive loads. and our communication methods. So the complete sentence is complete. You're not using bullet points. You're filling in the gaps. They're not trying to fill in the gap. They're not reading along with you. And you're providing a visual aid. So there's actually three modes of communication going on at once. They're reading your sentence, so keep it succinct. They're viewing your graphic, and they're listening to you talk. And the three of those things together are what make an engaging presentation.
Yep, I fully agree with you. God knows, again, there's been so many instances where I've been in presentations and they have a bunch of visuals on a presentation or on a slide and a bunch of text on the slide as well. And you're kind of thinking, well, am I supposed to be reading right now? Am I supposed to be looking at a visual? Which visual I'm supposed to be looking at? It's a whole lot going on. And again, if a non-technical person and listening to a technical presentation, you might just shut down, and then you'll be like the people that were in my presentation asking questions afterwards you thought you'd answered. This has been a great this has been a great conversation, Dianna. Thank you so much for being a guest. How can people get in touch with you?
You can visit the website at my book's website, piercethedesignfog.com, and my contact information is there. I've curated some podcast episodes about the early concept development. You could listen to those. I'm also on LinkedIn under Dianna Deeney and quality during design.
Wonderful. Well, everyone, that marks the end of another edition of Teach the Geek interviews. My name is Neil Thompson. I'm the founder of Teach the Geek. I work with technical professionals so they can present more effectively, especially in front of non-technical audiences. And if you want to learn more about that, you can go to teachthegeek.com. Again, that's teachthegeek.com. Until next time, take care and stay safe. Thanks, Dianna.
Thank you, Neil.